The derelict warship floated like a corpse in the black void of space. Taiyang guided his small salvage vessel closer, his eyes scanning the massive hull for any signs of danger. The ship had been abandoned for at least 50 years, maybe more. Its metal surface was pockmarked with blast marks and meteor impacts. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. Taiyang was a salvage operator. He found old ships and took valuable parts from them. It was dangerous work, but it paid well. Most species in the galaxy were too afraid to board ancient warships. They feared ghosts and curses and old weapons that might still be active. But Taiyang was human, and humans did not scare easily. He docked his ship against the warship's hull and put on his spacesuit. The suit was old but reliable. It had kept him alive through dozens of salvage runs. He checked his oxygen levels and his tool belt. Everything was ready. The airlock hissed as he forced it open. The inside of the warship was dark and cold. His helmet light cut through the darkness, revealing corridors covered in frost and debris. He moved carefully, one step at a time. Old ships could be unstable. One wrong move could cause a hull breach or trigger a forgotten trap. Taiyang made his way to the cargo hold. That was where the valuable items usually were. Weapons, power cores, medical supplies. Things that buyers would pay good money for. The door to the hold was jammed, but he managed to pry it open with his crowbar. The smell hit him first, even through his suit's filters. It was the smell of decay and chemicals and something else he could not identify. He swept his light across the hold and froze. In the far corner, something moved. Taiyang's hand went to the plasma cutter on his belt. He was not armed for combat. Salvage operators rarely were. Most things they encountered in dead ships were actually dead. But this thing was alive. He moved closer, keeping his light steady. The creature was huge, easily twice the size of a full-grown human. It had 6 eyes, all of them glowing faintly in the darkness. Its body was covered in thick, chitinous plates that looked like armor. Some of the plates were cracked and broken. Dark fluid oozed from wounds along its side. The creature's mouth was filled with multiple rows of teeth, each one as long as Taiyang's finger. Acidic drool dripped from its jaws, hissing when it hit the metal floor. Its legs were powerful and muscular, built for running and jumping. 4 of them were tucked under its body as it lay on the floor. Taiyang recognized what it was. He had seen pictures in his training materials. This was a Krath warhound, a bioweapon created by the Vexil Empire hundreds of years ago. They had been bred for one purpose: to kill. The warhounds had been used in the Vexil conquest campaigns. They had torn through entire armies. They could survive in vacuum for short periods. They could digest almost anything. They were intelligent enough to follow complex orders but had no mercy or compassion programmed into them. Every species in the galaxy feared the Krath warhounds. When the Vexil Empire fell, most of the warhounds had been hunted down and destroyed. They were too dangerous to be allowed to live, and here was one, lying wounded in a forgotten cargo hold. The creature's 6 eyes focused on Taiyang. It did not move. It just watched him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. He could see its ribs through gaps in its armor. It was starving. Taiyang knew what he should do. He should leave. He should seal the hold and let the creature die. That was the safe thing. That was the smart thing. But Taiyang looked at those 6 eyes and saw something he did not expect. He saw pain. He saw exhaustion. He saw an animal that had been abandoned and left to die alone in the dark. He slowly reached into his supply pack and pulled out a ration bar. It was his lunch, a compressed block of protein and nutrients. He unwrapped it carefully, making sure his movements were slow and visible. The warhound's nostrils flared. It could smell the food. Taiyang tossed the ration bar toward the creature. It landed a few feet away from its massive head. The warhound did not lunge for it. Instead, it watched Taiyang for a long moment. Then, slowly, it stretched its neck forward and picked up the ration bar with its teeth. It chewed carefully as if testing whether the food was poisoned. Taiyang pulled out another ration bar, then another. He tossed them all to the creature. The warhound ate them one by one, never taking its eyes off him. When the food was gone, the creature made a sound. It was not a growl or a roar. It was a low rumbling noise that vibrated through the floor, almost like a purr, but deeper and more resonant. Taeyang sat down on a crate. He was making a decision, and he knew it was probably a stupid one. He activated his communicator. "This is Taeyang to Station Control. I have found something in the derelict. I am going to need medical supplies and transport assistance." The voice of Station Commander Mirai crackled back. "What did you find? Survivors?" "Not exactly," Taeyang said. He looked at the warhound. "I found a dog." There was a long pause. "Taeyang, this ship has been dead for 50 years. There are no dogs." "There is now," he said. He spent the next hour carefully approaching the creature. He examined its wounds. They were infected and old. Without treatment, the warhound would die within days, maybe hours. Taeyang opened his medical kit. It was designed for humans, not for alien bioweapons, but the basics were the same. Stop the bleeding. Clean the wounds. Prevent infection. The warhound let him work. It watched him with those 6 unblinking eyes, but it did not attack. When he applied disinfectant to a particularly deep gash, the creature flinched but did not pull away. "Good boy," Taeyang said softly. "Good boy." He did not know if the warhound understood his words, but it seemed to understand his tone. When he finished treating the wounds, the creature's breathing was steadier. Its eyes were brighter. Taeyang knew that bringing this creature back to the station would cause problems. Big problems. But he could not leave it here to die. That was not who he was. That was not what humans did. He looked at the warhound and made a promise. "I am going to get you out of here. I am going to give you a name. And I am going to teach you that you are more than a weapon." The warhound made that rumbling sound again. In the cold darkness of the dead ship, Taeyang smiled. The station medical bay was designed for treating dozens of different alien species, but it was not designed for treating a Krath warhound. When Taeyang brought the creature through the docking bay, the entire station went into panic mode. Alarms blared. Security teams rushed to intercept them. Workers ran in the opposite direction, screaming warnings into their communicators. Station Commander Mirai arrived with a full tactical squad, all of them pointing weapons at the warhound. "Taeyang, step away from that thing," Mirai ordered. Her voice was hard and controlled, but Taeyang could hear the fear underneath. "Step away now." Taeyang stood between the warhound and the weapons. "His name is Baram, and he is not a thing. He is hurt and needs help." "That is a Class 5 bioweapon," Mirai said. "It has killed thousands, maybe millions. Protocol says we terminate it immediately." Baram made a low growling sound, but he did not attack. He stayed close to Taeyang, his massive body tense and ready. His 6 eyes tracked every weapon, every movement. He was a trained killer, and he knew danger when he saw it. "Look at him," Taeyang said. "Really look at him. He is starving. He is wounded. He was abandoned in that ship for who knows how long. If he wanted to kill me, he could have done it 100 times already." A merchant named Doyun pushed through the crowd. He was a Thelian, a species known for their cautious nature and excellent business sense. "Commander, the human is right about one thing. That creature could have killed him easily, but it did not. That is unusual behavior for a warhound." "Unusual does not mean safe," Mirai snapped. "I have families on this station, children. I will not risk their lives for one human's foolish compassion." "Then do not risk them," Taeyang said. "Give me one of the old cargo modules. The ones at the end of Dock 7. They are isolated, heavily reinforced. If Baram causes any trouble, you can seal him in. But let me try. Let me prove that he can be more than what he was made to be." Mirai stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Baram. The warhound was still growling, but he had not moved. He was protecting Taeyang, not attacking. "1 week," Mirai finally said. "You get 1 week to prove this thing can be controlled. But one incident, one threat, and I seal that module with both of you inside. Understood?" "Understood," Taeyang said. The cargo module was cold and bare. Just metal walls, a few supply crates, and a cot for Taeyang. But it was space, and it was private. Taeyang set up a water dispenser and brought in food supplies. He also brought medical equipment and tools for repairing Baram's damaged armor plates. For the first 2 days, Bahram stayed in one corner. He did not sleep. He just watched Taeyang with those 6 glowing eyes. It was unnerving, but Taeyang tried not to show fear. Fear made animals nervous. Taeyang talked to him constantly. He talked about his day, about the ships he had salvaged, about his life before he became a salvage operator. He did not know if Bahram understood the words, but he hoped the creature understood the tone. On the 3rd day, something changed. Taeyang was eating his breakfast when Bahram stood up. The warhound moved slowly, carefully, until he was standing right in front of Taeyang. His massive head was level with Taeyang's chest. Taeyang held very still. One bite from those jaws could cut him in half. Bahram lowered his head. Then he gently nudged Taeyang's hand with his nose. Taeyang slowly reached out and touched the warhound's armored head. The chitin was warm and rough under his fingers. Bahram made that rumbling purr sound again, deeper this time. "Good boy," Taeyang whispered. "Good boy, Bahram." From that moment on, things moved quickly. Bahram began to follow Taeyang everywhere. When Taeyang worked on repairing equipment, Bahram lay nearby and watched. When Taeyang ate, Bahram waited patiently for his own portion. The warhound's wounds began to heal, and his ribs stopped showing so prominently. The station residents were terrified at first. When Taeyang walked through the corridors with Bahram, people scattered. Shops closed their doors. Parents grabbed their children and ran. But Bahram never showed aggression. He just stayed close to Taeyang, his 6 eyes watchful but calm. One day, a dock accident happened. A loading crane malfunctioned and dropped a container. Taeyang was directly in its path. He had no time to move. Bahram moved like lightning. The warhound leaped forward and shoved Taeyang aside with his massive body. The container crashed down, missing Taeyang by inches. Bahram stood over him, shielding him with his armored bulk until the danger passed. Workers who had witnessed it stood in shock. A Krath warhound had just saved a human's life. Word spread quickly. Within hours, the entire station knew. Mirai came to visit the cargo module that evening. She looked at Bahram with new eyes. "I have been reviewing records," she said. "Warhounds were bred to be loyal to their handlers. Completely loyal. But they were also bred to be disposable. When they were no longer useful, they were destroyed. No one ever thought about what would happen if someone showed them kindness." "Everyone deserves kindness," Taeyang said. "Even weapons." Doyen started visiting regularly. He brought treats from different worlds, testing what Bahram liked. The warhound seemed to enjoy crystallized fruits from the Pelleran system. He would crunch them carefully, his acidic saliva breaking down the hard sugar shells. Slowly, cautiously, other station residents began to approach. A mechanic named Yunji was the first. She had watched Bahram save Taeyang's life. She brought a welding torch and helped Taeyang repair some of the cracks in Bahram's armor plates. "He is kind of beautiful," she said, running her hand over the repaired chitin. In a terrifying way, children were next. They were fearless, as children often were. A young Thelian boy named Jiho threw a ball down the corridor one day. It rolled right up to Bahram's feet. The warhound picked it up gently in his teeth and dropped it in front of the boy. Jiho threw it again. Bahram retrieved it again. They played for an hour. By the end of the week, Bahram was a fixture on the station. He still scared people, but they were getting used to him. Taeyang took him on walks through the less crowded sections. Bahram loved the observation deck where he could look out at the stars. One evening, Taeyang sat on the cargo module floor with Bahram's massive head resting in his lap. He scratched behind the warhound's bony ridges and Bahram made that rumbling purr sound. "The galaxy thought you were a monster," Taeyang said softly, "but you are not. You are just a good boy who never got the chance to be anything else." Bahram's 6 eyes slowly closed. For the first time since Taeyang had found him, the warhound slept. He slept knowing he was safe. He slept knowing he was wanted. He slept knowing he had finally found a home. 3 months passed. Bahram was no longer just Taeyang's companion. He had become something of a station mascot. Children played with him in the recreation areas. Workers gave him treats. Even the security teams had relaxed around him. The warhound, who had once been a weapon of terror, now spent his afternoons napping in sunbeams on the observation deck. Then the Vexil ship arrived. It was a diplomatic vessel, sleek and elegant, with the 3-moon insignia of the Vexil Empire emblazoned on its hull. The empire had been reduced to a shadow of its former glory, but it still maintained some territories and still commanded respect through its military history. Station Commander Mirai received the docking request with suspicion. The Vexil rarely came to neutral stations like this one. When they did, it was usually for important reasons. The Vexil ambassador's name was Hyejin. She was not Vexil herself, but was a human who served in their diplomatic corps. That was not uncommon. Many species served the Empire in various capacities, but her presence made the situation more complicated. She arrived with 2 Vexil guards and a handler carrying a containment device. Mirai met them in the main conference room. Taeyang and Baram were summoned as well. When Baram entered the room, the Vexil guards immediately raised their weapons. Baram growled, a sound that made the walls vibrate. But he did not attack. He stayed close to Taeyang, his body tense and ready. "Stand down," Hyejin ordered her guards. She studied Baram with professional interest. "Specimen 793. I had heard rumors, but I did not believe them. The last Krath warhound alive and apparently domesticated. His name is Baram," Taeyang said firmly, "and he is not a specimen." Hyejin smiled, but it was a cold smile. "Mr. Taeyang, I understand you have formed an attachment to this creature. That is admirable in a naive sort of way, but you do not understand what you have. That warhound is property of the Vexil Empire. It was created using our genetic technology. It was trained using our methods, and it needs to be returned to us immediately." "No," Taeyang said simply. The room went silent. Even Mirai looked shocked. "You did not say no to the Vexil Empire so directly." Hyejin's smile vanished. "This is not a request. It is a legal demand. The warhounds were never released into public domain. They remain classified military assets. Harboring one is a violation of 12 different galactic treaties." "Then the treaties are wrong," Taeyang said. "Baram is a living being. He thinks, he feels. He has formed bonds. You cannot own another living being." "The warhounds were genetically engineered," Hyejin explained, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. "They are not natural creatures. They are biological machines created for a specific purpose. Yes, they can think and feel, but so can artificial intelligences. That does not grant them rights." Doyen, who had been observing silently, spoke up. "With respect, Ambassador, that is a dangerous argument. Many species in the galaxy are results of genetic manipulation over millennia. Where do you draw the line between created and natural?" Hyejin ignored him. She focused on Taeyang. "You think you have saved this creature. You think you have given it a better life. But you do not understand what is inside it. The warhounds have genetic kill codes programmed into their DNA. Codes that can activate under specific circumstances. Specimen 793 has the ability to produce bioweapons in its own body, toxins that could wipe out entire populations of specific species." Taeyang felt Baram tense beside him. The warhound was listening. He understood more than anyone had realized. "Which species?" Taeyang asked. Hyejin hesitated. "That information is classified." "Which species?" Taeyang repeated, his voice harder. 27 species, Hyejin finally admitted, including most of the major galactic powers. The warhounds were designed to be ultimate deterrents. A single specimen could theoretically devastate a planet if the kill codes were activated. Mirai stood up. "Are you telling me that creature has been living on my station for 3 months with the ability to kill everyone here?" "The kill codes require specific activation signals," Hyejin said. "Without those signals, the warhound is dormant. But the danger is real. This is precisely why the Empire must reclaim it. For everyone's safety." "You mean for your weapons program?" Taeyang said. "You want to study him. You want to use him to create more warhounds." "The Empire has no active warhound program," Hyejin said stiffly. "But Specimen 793 represents valuable genetic data. Data that could save lives if a crisis occurs. Or end them," Doyen muttered. Taeyang looked down at Baram. The warhound was staring at the Vexil guards with those 6 glowing eyes. There was intelligence in that gaze. There was understanding. Baram knew he was being talked about. He knew his life was in danger again. "I will not let you take him," Taeyang said. "He is not going back to a lab. He is not going back to being a weapon." Hyejin's expression hardened. "Then you leave us no choice. The Vexil Empire will file formal charges with the Galactic Council. You will be arrested for theft of military property. The station will be sanctioned for harboring illegal bioweapons, and the warhound will be seized by force if necessary." "This could start a war," Mirai said quietly. "A diplomatic incident with the Vexil Empire over one creature." "Not just one creature," Hyejin corrected. A weapon of mass destruction. Commander, you are a reasonable person. You understand the stakes. The Vexil fleet can be here in 4 days. I strongly suggest you cooperate before this becomes an interstellar incident. She stood and gestured to her guards. They left the conference room, their footsteps echoing in the tense silence. After they were gone, Mirai turned to Taeyang. I want to help you, but she is right about one thing. If the Vexil Empire decides to take Barum by force, I cannot stop them. This station has minimal defenses. Then I will leave, Taeyang said. I will take Barum and go somewhere they cannot find us. They will find you, Doyen said. The Empire has resources across the galaxy, and now that they know the Warhound exists, they will not stop looking. Taeyang sat down heavily. He put his hand on Barum's head. The Warhound nuzzled against him, making that rumbling purr sound. It was the sound of trust. The sound of love. I will not let them turn you back into a weapon, Taeyang promised. I would rather die than let them take you. Barum made a soft whining sound. His 6 eyes looked up at Taeyang with something that could only be called concern. Yunji entered the conference room. She had been listening from outside. There might be another way. The Galactic Council has an emergency provision for contested ownership. If enough species support Barum's independence, the Vexil claim could be challenged. That would take months, Mirai said. We have 4 days. Then we make noise, Yunji said. Big noise. We let the whole galaxy know what is happening. We show them that Barum is not a weapon anymore. We show them what humans have always known, that any creature can change if given the chance. Taeyang looked around the room. At Mirai, who was risking her career. At Doyen, who was risking his business relationships. At Yunji, who was risking her safety. All for one ugly warhound that the galaxy wanted to destroy. Let us make noise then, Taeyang said. Let us show them what Barum really is. Barum's tail, a thick armored appendage, thumped once against the floor. It was the first time Taeyang had seen him wag it. The warhound was smiling. The video went viral across the galactic network within hours. Yunji had recorded it herself, using every camera angle she could find on the station. It showed Barum playing with children. Barum helping workers move heavy equipment. Barum sleeping peacefully with his head in Taeyang's lap. The title was simple, This is a Monster? Within a day, the video had been viewed by billions across hundreds of worlds. The response was immediate and divided. Some species were horrified that a Krath warhound had been allowed to live. Others were fascinated by the transformation. But humans, scattered across the galaxy in their typical fashion, rallied immediately. Humans had always been the species that adopted strange creatures. They had domesticated wolves into dogs on their ancient homeworld. They had befriended creatures that other species found disgusting or dangerous. Now they saw a warhound being threatened and their response was predictable. They got angry. Messages flooded the Galactic Council. Human ambassadors from a dozen systems filed formal protests. Human merchants threatened trade sanctions. Human colonies began organizing protests outside Vexil Empire facilities. The Vexil Empire's response was equally swift. Ambassador Heejin appeared on official channels, her expression grave. The creature in question is not a pet. It is a biological weapon containing genetic material that could endanger billions. The human Taeyang, while well-intentioned, does not understand the danger he has brought into a civilian station. But public opinion was turning. Other species began sharing their own stories. A Pelleran scientist posted research showing that warhounds had higher cognitive function than previously believed. A Thelian historian revealed documents proving that warhounds had been sentient and self-aware, but had their free will suppressed through neural conditioning. The debate raged across the galaxy. But on the station, time was running out. 4 days after Heejin's ultimatum, the Vexil fleet arrived. 3 military ships, heavily armed and bristling with weapons. They took up positions around the station, blocking all exit routes. Mirai received the communication personally. This is Captain Taewon of the Vexil Imperial Fleet. We are here to reclaim stolen property. Surrender the warhound designated Specimen 793 immediately, or we will board the station by force. This is a neutral civilian station, Mirai responded. You have no authority to board us. We have the authority granted by 17 galactic treaties regarding biological weapons, Captain Taewon replied. You have 1 hour to comply. Mirai looked at Taeyang. They were in the command center, surrounded by worried station personnel. Barum stood beside Taeyang. his 6 eyes fixed on the view screen showing the Vexil ships. "I am sorry," Mirai said quietly. "I tried everything. But I cannot let them attack the station. Too many lives are at risk." "I understand," Taeyang said. He knelt beside Baram and wrapped his arms around the warhound's thick neck. "I am so sorry, boy. I promised I would protect you." Baram made a soft whining sound. He licked Taeyang's face with his long, rough tongue. There was no anger in the gesture, only acceptance. Duyun burst into the command center, his face flushed with excitement. "Wait, do not surrender yet. You need to see this." He activated a holographic display. It showed the space around the station. The 3 Vexil ships were still there, but they were no longer alone. Ships were arriving. Dozens of them. Small personal vessels, cargo haulers, passenger transports. They were coming from every direction, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in flashes of blue light. "What is this?" Mirai demanded. "Humans," Duyun said, grinning. "Humans from every nearby system. They are answering a call that went out on human networks. They are here to protect Baram." More ships appeared, then more. Within minutes, over 100 vessels surrounded the station, forming a protective barrier between it and the Vexil fleet. Captain Taewon's voice came over the communications channel, now sounding less certain. "Unidentified vessels, you are interfering with an Imperial operation. Disperse immediately or face consequences," a new voice answered. It was a human woman, her accent marking her as from one of the outer colonies. "This is Captain Hana of the merchant vessel Bright Star. We are not interfering. We are simply exercising our right to peaceful assembly in neutral space. We will remain here as long as necessary." Another voice joined in, this one a human man. "This is the transport ship Morning Light. We stand with Captain Hana." Then another. And another. The communications channel filled with voices, all human, all declaring their intention to protect Baram. On the command center view screen, one of the human ships moved forward. It was a small salvage vessel similar to Taeyang's. The pilot's image appeared on screen. She was a young woman with short hair and determined eyes. "My name is Seo-yun," she said. "I am a salvage operator like Taeyang. 10 years ago I found something on a derelict ship. Something the galaxy said was dangerous. Something the galaxy said I should destroy." She moved aside, and the camera showed the interior of her ship. A creature sat there. It was not a warhound, but it was clearly another biological weapon. This one had 8 limbs and crystalline growths along its spine. It looked at the camera with intelligent eyes. "This is Juno," Seo-yun continued. "She was a Krell battle drone. The Krell are extinct now, and their weapons were supposed to be destroyed, but I could not do it. I saw something more than a weapon. I saw a living being who deserved a chance." More ships transmitted similar messages. A human miner showed his companion, a Thek shock trooper that had been left to die in an asteroid field. A human doctor revealed she had been sheltering a Mordian infiltrator beast that could change its shape. A human colony administrator admitted his settlement had adopted an entire pack of Vex war serpents. The galaxy watched in shock. Humans had been rescuing biological weapons across known space. Creatures that every other species had tried to destroy, humans had saved and befriended. Captain Taewon's voice was now openly frustrated. "This changes nothing. Those creatures are still dangerous. They still need to be contained." "Then contain us too," Seo-yun said. "Because we will not let you take them. Any of them." The standoff continued for 3 hours. The Vexil fleet did not move. The human vessels did not disperse. On the station, people watched the drama unfold, holding their breath. Then something unexpected happened. A Vexil soldier appeared on one of the human ships. Not as a prisoner, but as a passenger. He was young, and his uniform showed he was a low-ranking handler. "My name is Minho," he said, his voice shaking. "I was part of the Warhound training program 20 years ago. I worked with Specimen 793. With Baram. I was there when he was declared defective and scheduled for termination." He paused, gathering courage. He was not defective. He was compassionate. When other warhounds attacked training dummies viciously, Baram hesitated. When given orders to kill, he looked for alternatives. They said his combat programming was corrupted, but I think his empathy programming was too strong. He could not be made into a pure weapon because part of him refused to be one. Minho looked directly at the camera. "I helped him escape. I sabotaged the termination order and smuggled him onto a cargo ship heading for the outer territories. I thought he would die alone out there, but I could not kill him myself, because I saw in his eyes what Taeyang sees now. I saw a good boy who just wanted to be loved. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Vexil fleet. One of their own had admitted to treason on a public channel, but more importantly, he had confirmed what many suspected. The warhounds were more than weapons. They were victims. Captain Taewon was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired. I am requesting new orders from command. This situation has become politically complex. The Vexil ships held their position but did not advance. The human vessels remained in place, ready to defend. In the command center, Taeyang hugged Baram tightly. The warhound's tail was wagging, a steady rhythm of hope. They had not won yet, but they had not lost either. And sometimes that was enough. The Galactic Council session was the most watched event in recent history. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall on the neutral world of Axis Prime. The question before them was simple, but profound. Were biological weapons capable of personhood? The debate lasted for 3 days. Species that had suffered under Vexil conquest campaigns demanded the warhounds be destroyed. Species that valued individual rights argued for their protection. Scientists presented evidence. Philosophers argued ethics. Lawyers disputed treaties. But the moment that changed everything came on the third day. Taeyang was allowed to address the council. He stood in the center of the Great Hall with Baram sitting calmly beside him. Billions watched across the galaxy. I am not a diplomat, Taeyang began. I am not a scientist or a soldier. I am just a salvage operator who found something valuable in a place everyone else had forgotten. But that is what humans do. We find value where others see only waste. We find hope where others see only endings. He placed his hand on Baram's armored head. The warhound's 6 eyes swept across the assembled representatives. You look at Baram and see a weapon, Taeyang continued. You see genetic codes and kill protocols and military designations. But I see a person. I see someone who saves me when I am in danger. Someone who plays with children. Someone who has nightmares about his past and finds comfort in simple kindness. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Vexil Empire created the warhounds to be disposable, to be used and thrown away. But they made one mistake. They made them too intelligent, too capable of emotion, too capable of love. And now you all want to finish what the Empire started. You want to destroy them because they remind you of your fears. A Vexil representative stood, his face red with anger. Those creatures have killed millions. They cannot simply be forgiven because one human has made a pet of. Then punish the ones who created them, Taeyang interrupted. Punish the ones who use them. But do not punish Baram for being exactly what he was made to be. He did not choose to be a weapon. But he is choosing every day to be something better. Ambassador Hyejin spoke next, her voice measured and diplomatic. The council must consider practical concerns. The warhounds contain dangerous genetic material. Even with the best intentions, they pose a risk. So do I, Taeyang said. I carry bacteria that could be weaponized. I have knowledge that could be used to harm others. Every intelligent being is potentially dangerous. That is the price of intelligence. But we do not execute people for what they might do. We judge them for what they actually do. The debate continued, but the momentum had shifted. More species began speaking in support of the warhounds. The human delegates, naturally, were united in their support. But others joined them. The Thelians, who valued due process. The Pelorans, who believed in rehabilitation. Even some former enemies of the Vexil Empire spoke, acknowledging that the warhounds had been victims too. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the council reached a decision. The vote was close but clear. The warhounds would not be destroyed. Instead, they would be granted provisional personhood status. They would be monitored, yes. Their handlers would need to undergo certification, but they would be allowed to live. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species celebrated, others protested, but the decision was final. Taeyang knelt and hugged Baram. The warhound made that rumbling purr sound, so deep it vibrated through the floor of the council chamber. We did it, boy, Taeyang whispered. You are free. The aftermath was chaotic. The Vexil Empire formally protested the decision but ultimately accepted it. They had little choice. The political cost of continuing the fight was too high. Ambassador Hyejin resigned from her position, stating she could no longer serve an empire that valued weapons over justice. Minho, the soldier who had helped Baram escape years ago, was pardoned by the new Vexil administration. He joined a new organization that was being formed, the Biological Reclamation Initiative. Its purpose was to find and rehabilitate other abandoned biological weapons across the galaxy. Humans predictably volunteered in droves. They brought their rescued creatures forward. The Krell battle drones, the Thek shock troopers, the Mordian infiltrator beasts, dozens of species that had been created for war and abandoned when peace came. Seoyun's Juno became the first Krell battle drone to be granted citizenship. She used her unique abilities to help construct habitats for other rescued creatures. The Vex war serpents from the human colony learned to herd livestock, their pack instincts finding new purpose. Barum became a symbol. Images of him playing with children appeared on posters across the galaxy. Give peace a chance became a rallying cry for the movement. Some species found it mocking, but others found it inspiring. 6 months after the council decision, Taeyang stood in a new facility on the station. It had been converted from an old cargo section into a rehabilitation center for biological weapons. Dozens of creatures lived there now, each one learning to be more than what they were created to be. Barum was helping train newcomers. A young Krath warhound, barely out of adolescence, cowered in the corner of its habitat. It had been found in a laboratory, scheduled for vivisection. Its armor was pale and weak. Its eyes were filled with fear. Barum approached slowly. He made soft noises, reassuring sounds. He lay down beside the young warhound, showing it was safe. Slowly, the youngster's breathing calmed. It crept closer to Barum, seeking warmth and comfort. Taeyang watched with pride. Barum was not just surviving. He was thriving. He had found purpose in helping others like himself. Mireille joined Taeyang at the observation window. She had been promoted after the incident. The station was now a designated sanctuary for biological reclamation. It brought prestige and funding. I never thought I would see the day, Mireille said. Warhounds teaching warhounds to be gentle. Everyone can change, Taeyang said. They just need someone to believe in them. Doyen arrived with supplies. His merchant business had expanded dramatically. He now specialized in equipment and food for rescued bioweapons. It was a niche market, but a growing one. 5 more ships arrived today, Doyen reported. 2 Theks, 1 Mordian, and 2 more Krath. We will need to expand the facilities again. Good problems to have, Taeyang said with a smile. Yunji was teaching a class in the station school. She had developed a curriculum about biological ethics and the history of weaponized species. Children of dozens of species sat together, learning about empathy and second chances. That evening, Taeyang took Barum to their favorite spot on the observation deck. The warhound had grown healthier over the months. His armor gleamed. His eyes were bright. His tail wagged frequently now, a sight that still startled visitors. They sat together looking out at the stars. Ships came and went, bringing more rescued creatures. Each one represented a life saved. Each one represented hope. You changed the galaxy, Taeyang said softly. One ugly war dog showed everyone that monsters are made, not born, and that anything made can be remade. Barum's 6 eyes reflected the starlight. He made that rumbling purr sound, content and peaceful. Somewhere on a distant world, a human miner found something in an abandoned facility. Something dangerous. Something the galaxy said should be destroyed. The miner looked at the creature, saw fear in its eyes, and made a decision. Come on, the miner said gently. Let's get you somewhere safe. The revolution continued. 1 rescue at a time. 1 second chance at a time. Because humans had shown the galaxy a simple truth. Everyone deserves the chance to be more than what they were made to be. In his sleep that night, Barum did not have nightmares. He dreamed of children laughing, of gentle hands and kind words, of a human who had seen past the monster and found a friend. He dreamed of home, and when he woke, tail wagging, he knew that his dream was real. He had been created as a weapon of war, but he had become something better. He had become a symbol of peace. He had become proof that love was stronger than programming. He had become a very good boy, and across the galaxy, in abandoned ships and forgotten laboratories, in dark corners where other weapons waited to be found, hope stirred. Because if one ugly war dog could find redemption, then maybe they could too. The age of biological weapons was ending. The age of biological liberation was beginning, and it had all started with one human who looked at a monster and said the most dangerous words in any language. I am going to help you.